I don't understand you, okay? And that basically sums up academic versus non-academic people. I come from the business world, I come from the healthcare world, I come from an engineering world, I come from whatever. I'm a teacher for 30 odd years, I'm coming back now to my master's. I don't understand you, and you don't understand me. Academic versus non-academic. There's a lot of nuance to that, there's a lot of subtlety. It's not as clear black and white as that is, but essentially what you're getting down to is, you're coming from a different world from me, and I don't understand you. Do not leave your supervisor's meeting without a clear idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Do not go home until you get everything you need, okay? You can have great communication with your supervisor. It happens a lot. I deal with a lot of people who have great contact with their supervisor. They still come out doing a completely different topic than what the supervisor wanted. What's happened there is the supervisor says, I like that student. They know what they're doing. They seem really keen on it. Do you know what? I'll see them at the end when they've got everything done. Terrible idea. You need to get down to the actual structure of it. You can have someone who's in love with academia, loves the content, loves the topic, okay? But they don't know how to do a thesis. They know how to accumulate knowledge, they know how to engage with it, they know how to argue and debate in it, but they don't know how to do the actual thesis writing or the thesis structuring. And the thesis structuring is really, really important. There's all different reasons why students and their supervisor fall out. A lot of people will sympathize and empathize and understand everything I just said there and go, yeah, that's my situation, okay? Sometimes people don't speak up though. You're gonna have friends, you're gonna have family who are like, they're going through it, they're a bit distant, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, it must be just the PhD, must be just the master's thing. That's not what it should be, okay? Just because you're supposed to go through some gauntlet doesn't mean you should have to go through it. Look after your friends and family, okay? If your mother or your father or your brother or sister, aunt, uncle, whatever, niece, nephew is doing a thesis, just check in on them. Telltale signs to watch out for, okay, that you have a rogue supervisor, okay, and that things are not going to work out towards the end, okay. A big one, changing deadlines, okay. They were supposed to meet you on this week, and now they have to change to the next week after. That's okay the occasional time. Things happen, okay. We all have lives outside of college, and we all have lives within college, and changing deadlines is a big thing in academia. But when it becomes the norm, when the can has been kicked too much down the road, you're going to end up running into all those cans and you can't get past them now. So watch out for that one. My favorite one, mysterious sabbatical / holidays. Well, I'm sorry, I never told you, but I presumed you knew I was going to Outer Mongolia for 10 years. Or, Joe, did you not hear I got another job in a different college, so I'm just going to have to pass you on to someone in registry will pass you on to someone. Another one, frequently in feedback. Your thesis needs more something, X, like critical engagement analysis. But that's not explained. They just give you the feedback, the same feedback. And you're like, I don't get it. Well, if they're not telling you how to get it, well then, there's something wrong then. The expectation there is that you would just get it. But you don't get it. If you got it, you would do it. The guidance is vague, it's borderline esoteric. Okay, you're trying to say, well, what the hell did they mean by that? And you'll see it as well where they leave a comment in track changes. The comment is not elaborated upon. It just says, this appears to be blah, blah, blah. And there's no solution to it. The problem is raised. I know there's problems with the thesis. This is why I'm in college, to learn how not to have the problems in it. So you just tell me, well, there's a problem here. Oh, tell me how to solve it. I don't care. There's a problem there. Great. I know. I'm here. You're the supervisor. Tell me how to fix it. My favorite, if it's not the car analogy, it's the box lifting analogy, okay? The reason you go on a box lifting course is so you don't sue them when you break your back lifting a box. It's basically to say like, well, we put you on the box lifting course, so it's your own fault that you were crushed by 50 boxes because you lifted up from a wrong angle and a forklift backed into you. You know, it's just to cover someone. So there's a lot of students who don't understand their rights in regards to supervision, and there's a lot of supervisors who don't know their rights, that they don't have to put up with shit either. Find out what the student wants, what their expectations are. What are your expectations? And have a chat with them. There's no point going, well, I failed my thesis. Well, I sent you on the box lifting course. I mean, I met you 3 times and I gave you vague notions about what to do. What do you mean you didn't get it? Did it not sink in? No, I got crushed. I all the boxes fell on me. Lack of communication, okay? Don't go if you're a supervisor, don't go too long without speaking to your student. If you're a student, don't go too long without speaking to your supervisor, okay? Now, before we get any more contentious on the rabbit on the camera, okay? Don't fight fire with fire, okay? There's no point in having a argy-bargy with your supervisor. There's no point having an argy-bargy with your student, okay? Talk it through, okay? Remember the Tinder relationship. Remember the Tinder date you both got stuck on, okay? The point is it's getting to the end of the point. You're gonna have to do something, you know? Well, it was lovely meeting you, or blah, blah, blah. Chat. Don't resort to violence, but don't resort to verbal abuse either, okay? There's nothing worse than being CC'd in an email to the person above you. And you're like, well, this person has not helped me. It's like, a lot of times it's news to the supervisor as well. Because, look, everyone tries their best. But if you don't communicate to the supervisor that you have an issue with them, then it looks really petty if you go over their head. By all means, go over their head when you've exhausted all sorts of dialogue. But don't, for your first port of call is not to go like, well, I didn't get any joy out of that meeting. I'm going straight to the head of research or the director of the college. And then, or worse, I'm going on social media. Like, nothing says I'm a crazy person than going on social media and blasting your supervisor out of it. And especially if you haven't had a chat with him or her or the head of research or director of college. If you just go straight to social media and go, I have a woeful supervisor, I have no idea what I'm doing. You're signaling to everyone now that you are not a person to be worked with, because your first protocol is just to have a hissy fit. Anything to do with discrimination, sexual harassment, any sort of bollocks like that, HR, okay? Inform. It's not 1983, it's not 1893, it's 2023. Keep everyone informed of what's going on. If it gets too much like that, way too much, people need to know. More importantly as well, your health is your wealth, okay? So if you're having panic attacks and anxiety and depression from all, your thesis experience, you guarantee that your supervisor is going through some similar stress as well, okay? So the best thing both of you can do is have a chat and say, look, I'm going through this. I don't want to go through it. How do I not go through this? You and your supervisor, if you're good communicators, if you set out standards and expectations, you can find a nice common ground there to work on. You can find out that, do you know what, I don't want to stay here any more than I should, and you don't want to supervise me any more than you should. So what's the quickest way we can get through this? That dovetails into my next section, which is basically like, well, what can you do? Okay, well, I mean, watching this video is a great start, and I'm not one for advocating sitting down with a nice bottle of wine or chocolates with your supervisor and watching my videos, but I'm not advocating that. Find a teaching style that works for both of you. That's very important. You're going to have a completely different learning style than them. You're going to come from a completely different academic background from them. You might come from a non-academic background. Well, that's going to cause a whole heap of issues. Find the style that works for both of you, okay? At the end of the day, they're a lecturer as well, so they know all about teaching styles and teaching development models, okay? There's loads of different learning models. Find one that works for you. If the esoteric, vague track changes don't work for you, say, do you know what? A 10-minute phone call is actually much better for me. I work better listening. Or instead of just give me like spelling, I'm really great at grammar and punctuation and all that. I don't need you to spend 3 hours proofreading my document. Thanks very much. Can you spend those 3 hours talking to me about something else? Your supervisor's more than they're sort of trying to figure you out as well. But if you come to them and said, here's the type of person I am. I'm meticulous when it comes to proofreading and spelling. I know how to format my document. Stop sending me emails about that shite. Or stop, all my track change you have is just you fixing my grammar. Thanks very much. I don't care. I'll fix that at the end. Give me the stuff I need. Big one, okay? Be compassionate. Your supervisor is a human being as well. They have a life outside of college. You both do, okay? It may not be a great life, but it's a life outside of college. So you're both been forced into this unholy alliance where you're working together now. So not only are you being dragged away from whatever life you have outside of college, but now you've been forced into a system where you're just like, oh my God, I don't even want to be here. But now I have to be here with this other person. So just humanize. I think it's just humanizing the other person, The last point is identify what's actually wrong in the thesis, because it's easy to get caught up in the politics of it, the actual personalities of you and your supervisor, but the thesis is the most important thing here, okay? Does it have a research question that's answered? Does it have a research question that turns up in the conclusion? Does it have a finding section that links back to the literature review? Does it have a thesis outline? Are the references okay? Is it formatted okay? These are all things that can be fixed up pretty quickly, okay? You can get hung up on like, well, the academic review is not critically engaged enough, Or, do you know what, they need to read another 50 books here. Because I feel personally that their 20,000 word masters, you know, should be at the same level as a doctorate. Focus on the things that the student can actually do. Don't beat them over the head for all their sessions. If it's something to do with like, oh, well, academic writing is not up to par. Some people are just great at academic writing. Some people are just shite at it. Is it something you can teach? Of course, you can teach. There's little tips and tricks, but you're going to end up with mostly artificial academic writing, and that's perfectly fine. Just focus on the parts of your thesis that are your strength. And then your supervisor will help you with the weak parts of it. That to me is a nice common ground relationship. Just see what happens, okay? If the supervisor says, do you know what, I realized I made some errors there, I probably wasn't as hands-on, you have a different learning style, I should have appreciated that, here's what I'm going to do going forward, okay? Make sure that that is a change for good, because you don't want a situation where that's what your supervisor has said to you because they are fearful of how they're going to look when your thesis fails. And look at that like a breakup, okay? The first breakup, okay, you and your supervisor, like, it's not working out, okay? You just get back together, okay? If you just keep breaking up or nothing changes, then stay broken up. Sometimes a supervisor needs you to say, I hear what you are saying there about wanting to change things, but I don't think it's going to work out because I think we're just two different people. That requires the college to jump in there and be very efficient and say, well, look, we have another supervisor here for you. That's not always possible. That's not always the case. I told you about the system. It's a very strict system. So if you're given a supervisor, that's probably it. That's your supervisor, okay? So you have to make do. If the supervisor is not making do, that puts you in a very, very difficult position. And oftentimes that usually ends in disaster, especially if the college doesn't have the resources to give you another supervisor. But if your supervisor agrees to stay on board and change, well, then it's important going forward to know your expectations, manage them, and list them out, and have a timetable of how you're both going to work on this project. So there you go. It's another video on the student supervisor relationship, specifically in relation to your master's or doctoral thesis. There's always going to be issues, okay? College is not a smooth ride, okay? You're going to come up against different personalities and they're going to clash. And your thesis is going to suffer as a result of that. So it's important to get out ahead, okay? So if you see these telltale signs, just get out ahead of it. There's no point the last month, the last few weeks bringing this all up your supervisor. Keep on track with as you go along. So therefore, when you get to the end of your thesis, you are both on the same level and you both understand you have the same purpose and the same end goal. There's nothing worse than two people coming together to work on a project that have no idea of each other, that have no care for each other, and have no expectation or have wildly differing expectations of one another. Try and stay positive, keep your supervisor informed, have a chat with them, keep a journal, get it all out, okay? There's always light at the end of the tunnel.